I don't want to kick a turd here, but I'm sorry, the farm terms come out sometime.
Welcome to the Go Big Redcast. I'm your host, Honky, and I'm with Redcast Rob.
Hey, everybody. I just want to let you know that now that I've been doing this show for a year, I'm really going to start paying attention to some of the really major details that go into podcasting. You know, maybe I just been overlooking those a little bit more than I should over the last year. So I'm really going to really start focusing because, you know, back when I was a pro podcaster, I wasn't the best podcaster. So they kind of had me off to the side a little bit. So I'll really start putting an effort into being a better podcaster now.
It's all about getting better, Rob. Just, one day at a time, 1 year at a time. It's all about that. Next, we have Dave from Husk Guys. He's the captain of the Offseason National Championship team and the most followed Husker account.
What's up, guys? Hey, I'm honored to be here, pumped to be here. As I said, my profile, I wake up every day focused on trying to win an offseason national championship. And we're well on our way. We have absolutely no business being in some of the rankings we're being in, but some folks are putting us at top 2 or top 1 in the Big Ten, even though we, probably don't deserve to be there, but we're focused on hyping it up to get up to the top.
15-0 national champs, baby.
Yeah, Redcast Rob isn't, doing anything to try to squelch any of that hype. And last but not least, he's the most empathetic, biased, realist Husker fan out there, Jim in Minnesota.
Hey, Redcasters, happy to be here. I had a talk with my wife. She said, "Hey, what's going on tonight?" I said, "Well, I'm the opening act for Husk Guys," and she's like, "What?" So, anyways, I'm the sideshow for this Redcast, but happy to be here and excited to get this thing going.
Yeah, well, we're happy to have you guys here too. This is a lot of fun that we have this great new platform that we're working off of where we can have people on it. And just a shameless promotion for ourselves. We want to promote that on Monday, March 7th at 2 p.m. because Rob loves to do afternoon shows. We will be talking with Brandon Vogel, managing editor at HillVarsity. And I guess since we're doing the plugs, Rob, how about our HillVarsity one?
Well, as everyone likes to know, we are partnered up with Herdat and HillVarsity. And every month I receive a magazine that I just can't seem to find in front of me at the moment, right delivered to my door. And it's great. It's got some great articles, keeps you up with all the latest Husker news. And if you go there and you subscribe, you can receive a $10 discount on your first year by putting in Redcast as you check out. And while you're in there, feel free to visit the HillVarsity/Herdat store and buy all of your Redcast gear. As you can see right here, I got my hat on, and we're going to be putting up some new stuff on there as well. So check it out. Keep your eye out for that. And we'd love to be able to send you some Redcast gear so then you could come up and tell us all how stupid we are for selling it in the first place when we see you guys out there at all the games.
Yeah. And I think for what it's worth, I think it's a 10% discount on HillVarsity, not a $10 one.
Oh, no, it's a $10 discount.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. They sent me an official email and everything when I asked them.
Well,
so. Honky, you can leave the marketing to me if you'd like. I get paid in real life to do it too.
All right. See how easy it is just to get through all that housekeeping stuff right there, guys? I mean, yeah.
Good job.
You know what?
Man. Thank you.
Having
Thank you
Dave on right now is appropriate because he's the off-season champ, and that's what we're in right now. We're in the middle of the off-season, and we're starting spring ball today. This is a new portion of the off-season here. But before we get into spring ball, I think it's important to just kind of highlight maybe at a very high level the last 3-4 months. A lot has changed. I mean, Husker fans, if you've thrown away every podcast and haven't listened or read to anything since the end of last season, and you're just starting it up right now, boy, things look a lot different all of a sudden. The roster looks different. The coaching staff looks different. And people might even have those questions. Why didn't we make bigger changes than we did? And I just wanted to bring up this graph here. And this is, I think, a starting point to show everything that's happened over the last 4 months. And anyone that's been on social media the last month or so, they've seen this graphic a number of times from CFB numbers and CFB data. Each dot is a simulation out of 5,000 simulations that show what Nebraska last season should have gone. How historic was 2021 for Nebraska? And basically, looking at this, Nebraska had about an equal shot of going 11-1 as they did going 4-8. based off of this graph here, and we ended up 3-9. As we've said 1,000 times, we found every conceivable way to lose games, special teams and penalties and times and turnovers and things that killed us. And the whole point is, how far away were we? How many changes needed to be made? And did we make the right changes to fix those issues? They're legit issues. I don't ever want to say they're small. Special teams isn't small. Dave, I'm going to start with you here. As you start to read today and watch the videos from spring ball, we're now in that process to fix what was on that graph. All those things that kept us losing these close games in just heartbreaking fashion, we have fixed. We've totally fixed, right? I mean, they're 100% fixed, right?
0 issues. Yeah, I mean, I think, look, there's a ton of optimism coming into it, I think, because of how well he hired. I think, in a lot of ways, no disrespect to the previous coaches, but it feels like we've got like adults in the room, right? Like Whipple's been coaching for years. Mickey Joseph is one of the best recruiters in all of football. He alone, I think, has buoyed some of this offseason hype of like what his capabilities are, what he did at LSU with Jamar Chase, and look what Jamar Chase did in the playoffs. It's unbelievable what he did by picking him from a 3-star and turning him into what he was. So, I think with a lot of the coaching additions alone, you feel like, wow, okay, we've got some real experience. Guys who are bringing in, big time transfers, Casey Thompson, Trey Palmer, a lot of the other guys that are coming in. So, I think in that regard, just having those coaches there makes everybody feel pretty good. I think he's had basically the UCF guys for the last 4 years, and they were great. They worked hard. We really liked them as people, but now we've got, seasoned experience guys, Whipple, who just had a Heisman, candidate. You got, everything that I said about Mickey Joseph. So, I think that the coaches alone are bringing a lot of that optimism, I think.
Well, Jim, 9 single-digit losses, 8 one-score losses. We put up 239 points in the Big Ten, and we gave up 239 points. Normally, you're going 500, maybe 5-4, 6-3 with those kind of stats, and we went 1-8. In the history of the college football since the poll era began in the 30s, there have been 4 teams that haven't won more than 25% of their games, yet had a positive point differential. We had the largest point differential of all 4 of them. And one of them is Arkansas from like 1939. This doesn't, when I say historic, that's what I'm talking about. As you see what you watch today, do you feel like we've made the right steps? Did we do the right things and not blowing everything up in October when it made a lot of sense? A lot of people out there, I still talk to people that are like, hey, you're 3-6, 3-8, 3-9. You should be firing people. When you see what you're seeing there today, are you glad that Trev didn't go that route?
I think we all finished the season off the way we did. I think there was that period of time where any Nebraska fan, even Husk guys, who's always, the optimal positive guys, thinking, is this going to work? Are we actually going to be able to figure out how to close these games out? And I think as time has gone by, we've seen that. I think as I reflect back, I think most of the problems we're having with Nebraska's football team is more mental than it is physical. I think we've all heard that, but we're there physically. And I think the mental part, and Husk guys and Dave talked about this, but I think what you saw today, to answer your question, is you saw the excitement that we've heard the last couple months through signing day, through various press conferences. But there's an excitement level, even from Trev Alberts. You can hear him talk last Thursday. And there is a definite observation, I think, from players and coaches alike that there was change made, and it was made for the betterment of the team. And I think Ramir Johnson talked about that today, in fact, and how is unfortunate to see coaches leave, but this new energy and this new excitement, and quite frankly, just something different, right? It wasn't anything that the other guys, they weren't bad coaches, right? But this new group of players, I mean, we're talking about an influx of players, 18 new faces that they don't know about last year. Maybe they know about the losses, but their mind is like, hey, we were this close, or they were this close. I want to be part of this operation that gets over that hump. And when you have that synergy with the new coaches and the new players that have this mindset, I think it's good for the program overall. I mean, they don't know any different, right? They weren't here last year. So yeah, I think for me, it's good to see, again, both players and coaches have this excitement, this buzz, and it's difficult. It's a little bit of a learning curve, and there's going to be things that are challenging. They don't have the ease of the knowing the playbook like at the back of their hands. I mean, this is a new coaching staff, new plays. So, but overall, yeah, I think there's definitely some excitement that you can tell from the top, from Trev Alberts all the way down to the Ramir Johnsons of the world that see change and see some hope. And I think that's going to be important to get them through these 15 practices.
I think to jump in on that too. I think there isn't a single Nebraska fan or otherwise. I mean, there's plenty of trolls on Twitter, but I would 90% plus want Scott Frost to succeed. And I think that there was a big piece of that as it went to the offseason, and everyone who's like, God, 3-9, that was like the hardest season we've ever lived through. But we all wanted him so bad to succeed that when you're looking at who the alternative is, Dave Aranda, Matt Campbell, like some of these other guys that, would they have done better? I don't know. But at the same time, like there's such an emotional investment in Scott Frost that I think people are willing to give that added leash as long as he's able to bring in folks who can finish, who can close games, who can get us to that over the hump and, pay attention to the things that for whatever reason he hasn't been, special teams, finishing, a lot of the stuff that Jim was just saying. So, I think that was a big part of why people are relieved we didn't blow it all up, because then you're looking at 5-year rebuild. I mean, then it's which, that's no fun.
I just jump in there real quick. I'm sorry, Dave. Would you think that with that being said, I think there's also things we thought with Frost we wanted him to do differently. Like, why can't he do X? Why can't he do Y? It's so obvious to us as fans. Like, going back to recruiting in Omaha. Like, why couldn't that have been a priority 4 years ago? And what we're seeing now is some of those questions we had as fans, it seemed obvious to us as fans, are now being addressed. And whether that's the influence of Trev Alberts or whether that's the influence of Bill Bush and Mickey Joseph, but I think we're seeing a lot of these things addressed. And I think Frost is seeing what he wanted to address, which we can get into later, the offensive line, and seeing it play a way that he wanted him to play, to operate a run game that he knew could work, but it wasn't working the way he thought it should. And it's one game, one practice in, but there was a lot of buzz around just that. Right. And so I think from a fan standpoint, we're seeing things that we wanted to be addressed are being addressed. Should it have been addressed in 2019? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But they're finally getting done. And I think, again, we haven't played a game yet, but at least a lot of those questions in our mind are being answered now, I think. And that definitely helps. To go back to your question, Honky, it helps us as fans buy into this 5th year.
He's showing maturity and being willing to change.
Absolutely. Rob?
Yeah, and one of the things that I think I saw a great comment today, and I cannot remember where for the life of me I saw it. I was looking for it on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere else, but I did see someone say that I think the right approach to take as a fan this year, outside of trolling all Husker fans on Twitter, would be to look at this almost like year one, right? But year one where he's walking into an ideal situation, again, with the recruits that he wants, with the people in place in the coaching positions that he ultimately wants. And I think that initially with the first 4 years, he brought in guys that everywhere it worked for him in the past. And I think that he was kind of blindsided because he wanted to continue to use that system and have faith in those guys, because that's to be kind of the guy that he is. But, now at this point, it feels like he's kind of letting go of the reins a little bit more. He's going to sit up on his high horse and let other people drive the carriage, I think. And it just gets that feeling. I mean, he even said today where the nice part about having Whipple around is that now he can pay a little bit more attention to the defense, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and that's huge because the defense is already good. But now and then I honestly at this point think he's just trolling people with the special team stuff. It's like where he's saying like, oh, now I can really start paying attention to special teams because I was a special teams player. I can't believe that it hasn't been something that's important to him, but I also think that maybe he's been really good about not putting the blame in other places. And I do think that special teams this year is going to come in a whole lot different than it has what we've seen over the last 4 years.
The utmost confidence in Bush. And I mean, we've gone over his stats as the special teams coordinator at this school from 2005 to 2007. We were routinely in the top 20, top 25 in a lot of different special team stats. Punting, kicking, kickoff returns. We were one of the leading block. We blocked as many as about anybody in the country during
It's like
that time.
top 10 or top 15 in a lot of those categories.
That doesn't guarantee anything, right? I mean, we could go out and be the worst special teams unit. Nothing is guaranteed by this.
But the other coaches are buying into it, though, Honky. Like Joseph has said, right? Like where Joseph is like, you want to play wide receiver for me? You're playing special teams. I mean, that's like
there's no arguments about what I'm getting at is that there's no guarantees that any of this will work. Just like there's no guarantee that if we would have fired everybody and started over from scratch and added to our number 2 in the country largest dead money pool that we paid over the last since 2010, only behind Auburn, 24 million I think we had. We could have added 18 million if we wanted to get rid of Hoiberg right now. And I don't blame Trev one bit for how he's handled these first 6, 7, 8 months that he's been in there. And if anything, the last 12 years has shown Husker fans is that starting over again, that's no guarantee of success either. I think the reason I showed that graph at the beginning of how close we were to win those games is that when somebody hears what you said, Rob, that this is like year one, there's going to be a certain number of fans out there, and I'm not rightfully so. They're going to be pissed when they hear that. Are you kidding me? This isn't year one. This is year 5. Because I was that guy saying that about Riley in year 3 when you bring in Diaco and it's just like year 1 again. No, it's not. This is year 3. What I would say, there is a clear difference, though, in where the trajectory of the program was at the end of Riley's year 2 when all those changes were being made. And I think the trajectory of the program right now and just how competitive we are, we just got to get over a hump. There wasn't a hump big enough. The hump was huge where we were going under Riley. Right now, we are literally losing games by 3 and 4 points, and you got to find a way to get those 3 or 4 points and not give up the 3 or 4 through special teams and through some of the turnovers. So let's talk spring ball. This is our chance now.
And that's great too, because this is a good way, Honky. I know I'm going to be looking through some of the comments that we're getting.
Oh yeah, do we get
Facebook
some questions yet?
Yeah, and Casey Lowry on Facebook has commented that he agrees that there does seem to be change in attitude, but every spring brings optimism, and then reality sets in. So why don't I'll let you guys answer that, and we'll leave Casey's face up there so people can go to his Facebook page, which is probably public, and yell at him a little bit too. Just kidding,
Dave,
Casey.
Dave, this is a question custom built for you, Dave.
I mean, look, I think you just got to enjoy the wave, right? Like, I think that there's people are just so down on this stuff, right? It's like, oh man, like wait till September before you say a word. Like, how do you live your life like that? like why don't you just enjoy the spring and enjoy the development of the players and all the new players and see what they can do? I think that we've gotten so many new good players that have come in that I think we're going to, transition to talking about that. I get it. Like, I get that there's a certain doubt that exists, but I think my answer back would be to have fun with it, see what you can do in the spring, get excited about it, like feel that passion, like build back up. And then, when September hits, it hits.
Fun?
Have fun. Exactly.
Jim, can you help me out here? What's that
Can
word?
you define
fun?
that word, please?
Yeah. We were talking about before recording, right, Jim? I mean, it feels like
the
fun
last
right
time
now.
we had fun? Yeah, and it's been a long time, hasn't it? Probably at least 5 or 6 years. But no, I agree. I agree 100% with Dave. I mean, why else would you be a fan if you're not going to allow yourself to even have a little hint of excitement in seeing your team hopefully get better, right? And bring in some new pieces. I mean, I think we all probably saw the highlights every play of Casey Thompson. It's hard not to get excited about that. I mean, he looks like a prolific passer, and you got to, as a fan, imagine that in an offense that's got some different weapons and say, yeah, I can get behind that for sure. It could be a heck of a lot worse, right? I mean, we saw the chance for Market, and there's not a lot of quarterbacks that out there that would be, quite frankly, would be exciting to have in, a Husker uniform. And we got 2 of them. So I would say, Casey, allow yourself to go there a little bit. And yeah, I mean, losses can definitely pile up and those things can hurt, but I mean, get fired up, man. It's going to be another good season. I think that around the corner here.
Well, Jeremy Brandt is also asking at what point do we start buying tickets for the playoffs? Hey, Jeremy, I just want to let you know I've already got an Airbnb reserved for that weekend in Los Angeles. We'll be staying in a nice upstart neighborhood. I think it was called Compton. It's right next to Inglewood. It is a 4-bedroom house. It sleeps 22, and we will be at the game live watching the Huskers win their first national championship since the 90s. So it's going to be fantastic.
So that's Vegas Jer right there. So
oh well,
Vegas Jer.
You can bet on it then, Vegas Jer.
Vegas Jer's been on fire on Twitter lately. He's been firing them out.
Yeah,
he's why?
Good. He's good
from
people.
Minnesota. That's why.
Of course.
That's right.
I think I guess like I don't know. I just feel like it's a more fun and let yourself like get excited by it. Like I know we're facetiously talking about the playoffs, but like I think we're going to win the Big Ten until we mathematically can't anymore. Right? Like, well, why not have that level of optimism?
No, I absolutely agree. I mean, I'm on board with you guys this year. You can see my Twitter handle. It says 15-0 Natty Champs. And then, Jason Stenger here said, when you look at the roster, we're stacked with sophomore players, 27 sophomores, 17 juniors, 8 seniors. We're a young team. I'm going to take that one first because I will say this. When I talked with Kevin Williams a couple of weeks ago, he actually pointed that out about how young this team is, but he also talked about how hungry these guys are. And a lot of these guys have a year experience where maybe in other programs, they wouldn't have gotten that experience. So they're coming back stronger. They're coming back faster. One example would be Yant. Even Frost talked about him today, just kind of really putting in the work in the off season. And I pointed it out, I think in a show, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago about how young this team is. And I think we were talking about it, but I like it because what it shows is that Frost is starting to really build the program into his vision. And a lot of the older guys that weren't his recruits necessarily, but gave 120% every single week are now, moving on either to the next level or to other programs. And, that for me, that's kind of the optimism that I see with the team being young.
I always want to clarify, though, with the young part is that when you throw COVID years into this, it starts to screw around with your numbers a little bit. 27 sophomores, you could be talking about guys in their 4th year. Garrett Nelson's a junior, but he's going into year 5, right? And again, it's not just – I don't want to get into a fight about is it young or not. I think it's fair assessment to say that we're inexperienced at some positions and you want to get old. That's the old-fashioned coaching saying is that you want to get old. On the O-line, you want to get old. Every time you play Iowa or Wisconsin, it seemed like you had 4, seniors
every
on
time,
it, right? And, when I think of the pipeline, and I mean the pipeline at Nebraska, I always go to 1994. That's the year of the pipeline. And that's Joel Wilkes, and that's Rob Zaska, and that's, Sty, and that's Wiegert. 4 guys that are basically 5th-year seniors, and it's Aaron Graham, a 4th-year junior at center. I mean, that's where it's great, right? And then you're getting some backups in there and they play the next year and you move on from that. That's hopefully, obviously we're getting to that point, but transfer portals change things too. About the second you think you're getting old, then you have 10 guys leave and 10 guys come in. The transfer portal has a chance also to give you some depth at a position where I'm not feeling good at quarterback if I'm losing a 4-year starter who is, tops on a lot of the all-time record charts at Nebraska for yards and touchdowns and all that. You normally wouldn't feel very good about it until you get the guy that comes from Texas who put up 7 touchdowns against Kansas, all 7 in a loss, who puts up 5 touchdowns against Oklahoma in the Red River Shootout in a loss because their defense can't keep a team under 50. I mean, that makes you feel better. If Chuba Purdy comes in and he can provide depth and you've got Logan Smothers and you have Heinrich and you have a competition going, that starts to feel pretty good there. Rob, anything else from right now, the comments before we move on to the spring ball?
No, so let's talk a little bit about spring ball, and then we can, if there are more comments, we'll come back to them here in a little bit.
I'll start then here. So we'll go with the roster management. We always do that, and that's going to lead into the actual practice and everything today. So since we talked last on the Redcast, outside linebacker Darius Payne, he re-entered the transfer portal. So he went in December, came back, and then he went back in, and then so did wide receiver Will Nixon. And as we will talk about, that is a position of a lot of depth right now, wide receiver. I mean, it'd be easy to be, kind of just stuck on the list there. And then as far as the recruiting class goes, no major changes since last week. We have Gunnar Gottschalk, Dwight Boodle, Benjamin Brahmer, Sam Sledge, and then William Watson was the quarterback that joined the recruiting class last week right as we were recording. And then the highlight, and I think you mentioned it earlier, Jim, about just recruiting in Omaha. It's the in-state recruiting. And when you look at these stats right now, or these kids here, I mean, in 2023, we have already put out 5 in-state offers. 3 of them have committed, Gottschalk, Brahmer, and Sledge. We also have Malachi Coleman and Maverick Noonan that have offers. We have 3 kids in state that are 3 stars that don't have offers yet, but soon could be from Nebraska. Brock Knudsen, Benny Nagoy, and then Zane Flores is the quarterback from Gretna, who right now, I don't know. It doesn't look great that he'd probably be getting an offer, but he has, offers right now from K-State and Oklahoma State. There's definitely talent in this state. And then 2024, we're already out there on 3 kids, Devon Hall, Caleb Benning, Daniel Kalen. And 2025, Christian Jones and Tyson Terry. Tyson Terry's a freshman that won the heavyweight wrestling championship the first time since, I believe, 1971, I think was the stat that's happened in state. And I guess as we look at this, you brought it up earlier, Jim. I want to go back to you. How important is that? So, again, we're getting hyped, right? I mean, we're feeling good. But why is this any different than before? Why is this any different than what, Frost, why do you make all those changes? What are you seeing when you see those kind of stats right now that we're going after this amount of kids? Why is that important, and why do you think that they're making a difference?
Well, it's a good question. I think because you look at the past 4 years since Frost's been here, we've recruited a number of kids from Nebraska, right? Even a number of kids from Omaha. He's done a good job, aside from this last class, of getting kids from Omaha. But I think what you're seeing now is an actual overall strategy to recruit these kids. I think we assumed because Frost and Root were from Nebraska, they would know how to recruit Nebraska, and there would be an emphasis on these kids. And so you're seeing now an actual strategy to target these kids, along with, I don't know if that's me clicking or somebody else.
I think that's Dave. I think you're clicking. It's picking up the microphone there. So that's right.
But I think you see it. 2 things. I think you see the actual talent in Nebraska. I think is the best I heard since 2008. The number of 3- and 4-star players. So you're seeing this development, and whether it's the Steve Warren academies, whether it's the private trainers, whether it's the spring football leagues, but you're seeing a kind of like Iowa has seen over the last couple of years, a swell of talent within Nebraska. So it's good timing. It's good timing to actually get serious about bringing your entire coaching staff to Lincoln, bring your entire coaching staff to Omaha, and let these coaches know that, hey, you're a priority, not just the kids in Florida, the kids in Georgia.
I have a question for you, Jim.
Priority. Yeah.
Jim, is that the chicken and the egg? Do we have more talent in state right now? Or is it also that once you start to put an emphasis on an area? So I'm talking start 5-6 years ago, Jalen Bradley from Bellevue West, right? I mean, you start to get coaches coming into your school, and now they're recruiting one kid, but then there's a junior, and there's always a sophomore, and you start recruiting's a relationship business, right? Hey, I get to know that head coach, and that head coach says, hey, I've got a freshman who hasn't played yet, but come back, right? And all of a sudden you start seeing there's certain schools that have had repeat customers. Do they have more talent than they've ever had before? Or is it simply a combination of they have talent and people are actually seeing them and coming to see them?
Well, I think you look at the other teams that are offering our kids, right? Before it was just a handful of regional schools, the Kansas States, every once in a while. Iowa, of course, would be in here, but now you're seeing in the last 5 years, you're seeing Oklahoma in here now. You're seeing obviously Minnesota's had a huge presence, and they're trying to desperately get a kid from Nebraska. I think that's pretty obvious.
Oregon now.
Oregon, right? Oregon's been in here, and so you're seeing other schools say, hey, there's talent in Nebraska. And not just the kids that are going to Wyoming and South Dakota states and so forth, but actual Power 5 talent. And so maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know the exact. I mean, here's the thing. Let's be honest with you. I think back in the Frank Solich years, I was the guy complaining about we're getting too many kids to Nebraska, right? I mean, there was definitely a time where it seemed like we didn't have enough balance outside of Nebraska. So I think it comes and goes. But overall, I like the strategy. I like the emphasis. I think that the one thing that I would get really pissed off about was you'd hear kids say, I want to be recruited like the kid from Florida. I want to be this. I mean,
Mhm.
I know I'm an hour from Lincoln, but I want to feel like, that I'm in Florida. I want to feel like I'm the kid in Council Bluffs that they got last year. I want to feel what it feels like to be recruited just like them. And I think there probably was a little bit of an emphasis of like, hey, they're from Nebraska. It's not, they want to come here type thing. And you can't have that mindset. And so
Mhm.
I think you're seeing that transition. But, I don't know the exact answer to that question, Honky. I think there's probably a little bit of both in there. And
Sure.
you guys you live there. So, and Dave as well. I don't know if that's what you guys have seen, but just from an outsider standpoint, I think there's definitely an emphasis on the strategy. And then obviously I think there's a talent increase for sure. I mean, you look at the star rankings and so forth. I mean, there's definitely an increase.
Mhm. Well, I like the Facebook thumbs up and down. For some reason, we have an angry emoji that came in, and it's from Mike Marty Honky, and I know them, so I'm not sure what they're mad about. I don't know what we said to piss them off, but if you like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up, give us a smiley face or whatever, and we'll keep moving on here. But
Isn't that your mom and dad?
that
Hunky?
is correct.
Yeah, that's.
Rob.
You're in trouble, young man.
Yeah, Rob. Jason Stenger here says, I noticed Gabriel Murphy has pinned the tweet about his Nebraska offer. Hopefully, that's a good sign. Hopefully, that is.
It looks like I checked it out on Twitter, and it is in fact his pinned tweet, and it's twins. Apparently, they're a package, and they're coming out of North Texas from the transfer portal. So it'd be interesting. I mean, that's one area, right, where people were saying we weren't having enough emphasis as far as like off-season recruiting, and even out of the transfer portal, people wanted to see more guys on the defense, right, to make up for some of the areas that we lost. So, I mean, if in fact that's the case, I mean, that's a good thing, right? Although I don't know, they're not here in spring, Honky, so I don't know if I can support them yet until they're actually on campus, because as I said, if they're not in spring ball, they're dead to me. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about the guys who are in spring ball.
Let's
We're going to
talk
start
about
off, and Rob, you want to take that comment off there? So we go to the jersey numbers here, and you can look over the jersey numbers for the new kids, and guys like Blaine Gunderson have changed their numbers. But in addition to them, there are some players that are outer limited right now. Quarterback Richard Torres, running back Gabe Irvin's limited, tight ends Vokaluk, Chancellor Brewington, offensive lineman Prochaska, Corcoran, defensive line Casey Rogers, a couple linebackers Snodgrass and Reimers, and defensive back Omar Brown, who's the transfer from Northern Iowa. Just kind of gives you an idea of what the roster is looking like right now and who's actually available to practice and everything.
What number is Casey Thompson?
Did you see that?
Sorry.
I didn't see it. It wasn't on the screenshot
I'm
that I
actually
grabbed
curious.
a couple days ago.
Got to sell some of those jerseys.
Hey, if anyone knows what number Casey Thompson was that's listening, feel free to throw that comment out to us as well.